Hey, what's going on, cats and kittens? Madman here. Yeah, I know. This is not the normal way you guys normally see me, and that's because, well, I'm doing an art review for you with a little bit of art. Alright, so tonight I'm going to be doing a little review on the actual markers that I use to create the t-shirts and designs that you guys see. So, let me take out a few markers here. Let's see what we got. Okay, the name of the company is Biyano. I don't know if you guys can see that right there. Or Biyano, but I think it's Biyano. Now, the cool thing about these are pro markers, and they are very affordable. These are alcohol-based markers, very much like your Prismacolors or your Copics, but these are a hell of a lot more affordable. You can get a good set of Biyano markers or markers very similar to this on Amazon for, 30, 40, 50 bucks. You can't beat that. So let's go ahead and actually take a look at the marker itself. You have two ends. One end is a chisel nib, and the other one is a bullet nib, as you can see there. I've never really gotten the chance to use brush nibs. I would actually really like to try a brush nib, but I've always had the chisels and the bullet nibs. I mean, I've never used Copics, so I can't say anything about those. But I mean, I have used the Prismacolors before, and as you can see, they have the chisel nib and the the bullet tip. So that's all I've pretty much used when it comes to the pro markers. As an artist, never had a whole lot of money, so I always had to make do with what I had. So let's go ahead and take a look at the first thing you're going to want to do once you get a hold of markers like this. You always want to have a swatch. And what is a swatch? If you notice, there's numbers on this swatch, and then there's certain colors that are associated with those numbers, because on markers like this, if you look at the ends, they're numbers. You dig? So you're not going to know what the colors are unless you're familiar with the markers and you have a swatch. So a swatch is always key. Let me go ahead and show you a few examples of some designs you have not seen yet, and some that you may have already. As you guys know, when I do my t-shirts and stuff, I hand design all this shit. Now, I take it, I upload it, I put it in the computer, and I edit it, and basically make it into a design that would be ready for a t-shirt. It looks great. So here's some designs you may or may not have seen. These were all using these markers, as you guys can see here. Some of you have seen some of these designs, some of you have not. I have a shit ton of stuff in the queue that I have not uploaded yet, but these are some of the designs that I've used making these markers. So I'm going to give you a quick demonstration of how they work. Now, I have this little greaser skull thing drawn. I need to actually outline it, so I'm going to quickly outline it. I don't have a whole lot of time with these videos, because drawing, unfortunately, does take a long time, and the size of the video that I'm going to be uploading is just horrendous, and it's very hard to work with my computer, because it's not really designed, well, to do a lot of video editing. So the render times are very crazy at times, and the whole thing is just kind of a clusterfuck. So I try to keep these videos short as I can. So that's why I'm moving rather fast, and I'm not really taking my time like I normally would. But I definitely want to give you an idea of what these markers do, and you can kind of see them in action and get a little bit of an art lesson at the same time. And that's the cool thing about doing skulls, is they don't have to look real neat and perfect, because there's nothing neat and perfect about a skull. So what we're doing is just kind of quickly outlining this so we can do some marker work. Okay, normally I take an eraser and I always erase the pencil marks. I'm not even going to deal with that right now. Okay, so let's take a look at our swatch here, and I'm going to use a light skin tone, so like a beige type of a skin tone. 26 WG05 will work nicely. Where the fuck's 26? One of the complaints I do have on these markers is the numbers, the writing will wear off, so be aware of that. So let's go ahead and kind of briefly go over this. Just kind of lightly color some areas in. Usually with these I like to do a beige or like a very light gray. I do end up adding gray anyway, but I kind of use this as a base tone. Now here's a little tip for you guys. Now, like with your Copics, you can refill Copics and things like that. These you cannot. However, if you use rubbing alcohol and a dropper, you can actually restore them quite nicely for a while. So that's a little tip for you guys. Let me go ahead and switch off to the WG05, which is practically the same color. It's very, very close. But I'm not getting a lot of juice out of it right now. There we go. Getting a lot more juice out of this one. That's what I'm looking for. But that's a little tip that you guys can use to refill your markers. And you can do that with just about any marker, by the way, as long as it's an alcohol-based marker and you can open it up. With these, you have to pull the... I usually go with the chisel tip nib. I go and I pull the nib out with a piece of napkin or something, and I take the dropper with the alcohol and I drop a little bit of that in there, and it gets the juices flowing again. And I'll cover that in another video at another time. That's not the idea and the purpose of this one. Okay, so we got a light color going there. Let's go ahead and use a black for the eyes. And like I said, guys, I'm just rushing through this. I'm not gonna go overboard with the definition of this, just so you get the basic idea what these do and how they blend very nicely and the kind of color you can expect. So as you cats can see, it's already starting to kind of come together a little bit. So let me go ahead and show you a little bit of the shading and blending. Back to our swatch here. I'm going to start with WG2. Also, the cool thing about these markers is you can get them in random assortments, and again, they're very cheap, but they work great. I would recommend these markers for anybody really wanting to start out, play around, or who's even just a serious artist and doesn't want to spend a shitload of money on fucking markers. I mean, fuck, I don't. I mean, eventually I'd like to try out some of the other brands of markers, but hell, I just don't have that kind of income to throw around. Alright, back to the swatch. This will work. And like I said, cats, I'm not really trying to go for any crazy detail. I'm just rushing right through with this. As you can see, things blend very nicely together. They just work really, really well. And as you progress with your markers and your techniques, your skill will get better with these. And, you know, it just takes time, it takes practice. I think they blend very well together, but also part of it has to do with the paper that you use. And I'm just using like really common fucking all-purpose printer paper. You know, I've used some of the better paper in the past, and I love it. It works great. But for what I'm doing, this works just fine. Go add a little more detail in the teeth. Get long in the tooth. Brr. Light strokes. Give some depth to the teeth. Let's go ahead. A little bit of shading in there. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and kind of start giving the hair some characteristics here. Well, that'll work. And for the hair, let's go back to the swatch. Okay. 5, 7, 8. I'm gonna go 5, 7, 8. 5. 7, 8. The cool thing also about the different assortments is they give you a lot of grays and blacks, and just really good mixtures of colors that you can layer up all of your work with. So you can create shadows and definition and highlights, and of course that just comes with having to know what you're doing. Just kind of have to know what you're doing with the stuff. But some of you cats that have checked out different designs and shirts I've done, I'm sure you'll kind of recognize this, you know, greaser, this greaser skull that I have done. Kind of done it multiple times with different looks, and I always try to keep it pretty similar though. But even as I'm going quickly, you can see that these start coming together very nicely. Sometimes I like to use these almost like a paintbrush in a way, and kind of get real wild and exaggerated with my strokes. I'm very wild and exaggerated with them tonight because, again, this is going to be a bitch to edit. There's still a little bit of darkness in there. I guarantee you this is going to be a bitch to edit, because it's going to take a long process to get it all put together and looking right. But this will give you an idea of the stuff that I do every day. I'm always working on designs. I'm always putting stuff together. But I wanted to kind of share this art product with you. And also, I'm going to go ahead and have a link to these markers or very similar markers in the description below. So you can go ahead, and if you want to give these markers a try, or just up your game and get into alcohol-based pro markers, well, this would be a very good introduction into those markers for you. Whether you're a beginner, intermediate, advanced, just wanting to fuck around with some markers, wanting to explore and try new things, well, these would be the markers to get, because they're not going to cost you a lot of money up front. You will get pretty damn good results from them, and they're just kick-ass as shit. I like them. So let's go ahead and do, as you guys can see, I mean, I'm doing a little bit of everything. Different colors and, oops, I forgot, I don't want that one, I want this one. And then we fade into this one. Alright, so there you go. I just did that about as quick as I could. Again, nothing fancy. I'm just kind of, oh, wait a minute. You know, and this is another thing with artists, by the way, is they can never leave shit alone, even though this is not supposed to be a serious piece. This is it's like a little crap piece that I've done. I just can't leave it alone. I got to keep fucking with it. It's an artist thing. Some of you that are artists will know what I'm talking about. You just can't leave it alone. You just got to keep picking at it. All right, I need to stop playing with it. Okay, so again, the markers, Biyano. They also make some other markers that are very similar, that are also cheap as well. As you can see, you get a very big assortment here. You know, I've got a ton of markers, as you can see in the swatch. There's just a ton of stuff. You know, you got your reds, your pinks, you know, into your oranges. You got your yellows, your greens, your blues. You know, your purples, violets, magentas, hot pinks, you know, fucking, you got some of your darker, you know, or you got some of your darker skin tones here into your blacks, your grays, a shitload of grays, more skin tones and more grays. So, honestly, great value, great markers, but this is the piece, this is what I did. Not too bad, kind of a speed drawing. But hopefully you guys found this video to be informative. It gave you guys some ideas on stuff that you can get. And maybe you just liked watching the art and like watching me draw. So, as always, if you don't know, get a clue, get a brew, get a rock and roll tattoo. Hang loose, be safe. Madman's out.